Hey folks, John Miller, propanebuzz.com here, coming to you from my parents' basement on the road this week. So doing a vlogcast, a podcast, whatever you want to call it, from my parents' basement. This is a Lifetime Achievement Award stuff right here. But no, just taking the road show in the week this week. Haven't been able to see my folks much over the course of the last 5 years that I've been wholesaling, so able to kill a number of birds with one stone here this week. Thanks for being with me today. Let's jump right into the EIA report as we do each and every Wednesday here. I'm looking at this live. We'll be doing this live here likely beginning next week. After we roll out the subscription offerings, you'll be hearing more about that in the coming days. Propane, come down to the propane line, 3.2 million barrel build. Not surprised. Once again, we see a robust build season this summer, which is what I've been expecting and been talking about, and that continues. The last three builds, I think we've had, we had a 4 build. We had over 3 last week. We had a 2.3 the week before. So we are rocking and rolling. Now we've got national inventory levels at 55.1 million barrels, where 1 year ago we were at 54.5 million barrels. So we've overtaken 2017 year over year in the race for the rebuild. I said I thought we'd do it by the end of the month. We have done it now, and we are off and we're running. I still think that we'll likely see an inventory level at the end of September somewhere between 85 to 90 million barrels. Let's go down and look at the internals of this report really quickly, as we do each and every week. Looking at production, there's propane, 1.927 million barrels per day. Last week we were at 1.948. The week before we were over 1.92. A year ago, 1.85 million barrels per day. 2 years ago, 1.7. The 4-week average, 1.947. The 4-week average 1 year ago, we were at 1.840. So we're averaging about 700,000 additional barrels of propane production per week this year versus last year. And I was writing and talking about in March that I expected we would see much more robust production this year than 1 year ago, and that is indeed happening. Let's go down and take a look at exports, the export markets here. Propane exports, where you at? Right there. 1.013 million barrels per day. That's a huge number. Keep this in mind. We just had 1 million barrels per day of propane exports. That's a big, big number. That's probably in the top 15% of weekly propane export numbers of all time. Yet we just built 3.2 million barrels of inventory. That should tell you something right there. Let's move on down the line. Crude oil right now. This is, let me just refresh this just to make sure that we've got real-time prices. Up 74 cents on the day yesterday. We closed down from 65.85 on Monday to 65.07 on Tuesday. So we're up a little bit from that. Propane trading today. A friend of mine let me know that propane, the deals that have been done, I think 86 or so in 86 and a half or so in Bellevue, 65 and a half-ish or so in Conway, just up slightly from yesterday at this point in time. Let's look at the Brent to WTI future spread. Brent crude is the index or indice that most of the world's crude's traded on. WTI is West Texas Intermediate. That is where the American-based product is traded. There is a $9.78 spread between Brent prices up here and then American prices down here. Look out the curve. August, September 18, October 18, etc. You're talking about $9 out the curve, getting down here in December 19, June of 20, December of 20, December of 21. This is a very robust curve. So trading are possibly staying open for quite some time. So we could see continue to see strong exports. Although over the next 4 to 6 weeks, I've heard some people talking about how there may be some maintenance going on some of the export terminals, so we could see export numbers drop during that time. If we do see that and we see this robust propane production, you're going to see inventories continue to build stronger and stronger and quicker. Could lead to some more buying opportunities for you with regards to buying in the dips. I think that's sort of the mantra this summer. When we see things pull back, look at buying in the dips, either on your summer fill or locking in some opportunities for the winter. Moving down through the slides I have prepared today, China finally overtook the United States as the world's largest crude oil importer in 2017. China here on the orange line, the American line in the white. Key aspect, because as we're talking about tariff concerns, trade war concerns with China, If we get to that July 7th deadline and the Americans don't blink and the Chinese don't blink and Chinese begin to slap some tariffs on American crude oil, we could see crude oil backing up here in the United States. We could see that Brent WTI spread do some more crazier things than it is right now. So there's some significant aspects of this potential trade war between the United States and China that will play out in our industry and have an impact on our product, and that being propane. Let's take a look a little bit here. This is a visualization of the daily propane averages since June 1st. Red line is Bellevue, blue line is Conway. This is the 90 cent per gallon line. You can see that we've been hovering near that. The trend lately has been down below. I mentioned we're around 86-ish or so cents as of the end of the day yesterday. Here's Conway down here in the mid-60s. But you can see the general trajectory of both of these being similar, with Conway slightly sliding up the last few days and Bellevue ever so slightly moving down, which means that this spread between these two is starting to come in, but it's still very, very robust. 20 cents per gallon-ish, north to south, Conway to Bellevue spread. Will be interesting to continue to watch to see how Conway inventories build as the year moves along. Now, last thing here on this video today, and I'll write more about this, and you'll be able to see some of these weather commentaries on the website today, propanebuzz.com. Rainfall. This is from our friends over at bamwx.com, the weekly Ag Belt rainfall outlook. And you can see here that we're talking about moderate to high levels in Des Moines, Fargo, Sioux Falls, moderate levels, Minneapolis, Omaha, Wichita, Kansas City, moderate to high, Springfield, Illinois, down here, Columbus, Ohio. These are the 7-day forecasts through 6/27. Look at how those line up with the average rainfall per week normally. So it's a wet week ahead for those of you out in the Corn Belt. You can see that visualization here. This is the week that is ahead for us. These are anomalously higher than normal ranges. And then out in today's 8/14 2-week, things dry up a little bit. Some areas going to see 300% of their normal precipitation over the course of the next 7 days. In this dark shaded green area, we're looking at north of 100%. And then out into the 2-week time frame, you see that it does dry out a bit there. And here are some looks at temperatures. Your 1 to 7 day temperature outlook. This blue shading is anomalies below traditional normal. So it's going to be cooler than normal these next 7 days, which would make sense because it's going to be wetter. But then we go back into above normal anomalies in the 2-week. We'll have more weather conversations this week. Michael Clark from BAM is going to join me again this week to follow up on last week's conversation and find us some analog years that line up with what we've experienced in the past with Mordecai El Nino type years, as we talked about last week. And you can go look at I'll put the link in the body of the story down below, but you can always see it on propanebuzz.com. We talked about last week, not every El Nino is the same. So there's no reason to be scared when you hear the term El Nino, because not every El Nino is like the monster that we had 2 winters ago. And in many years, Mordecai-based El Ninos, which is a Central Pacific Basin-based pool of warmer water, as opposed to a basin-wide all across the equator and over off of the western coast of South America. That's your traditional canonical El Nino. The canonical El Ninos typically lead to warmer than normal temperatures, but Mordecai, central-based El Ninos, Central Pacific Basin-based El Ninos, those lead to some colder winters, and Michael and I will be talking about those later on this week. As always, thank you for visiting propanebuzz.com, and we will talk to you soon.